All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Land Use Committee. I'm sorry if I'm a little stilted. This is my first time running a meeting. I'm Jake for folks who I have not met yet. So I guess we will just kick it off with roll call. So I will run through real quick. Anisha, Stephen, not present yet. Jake Gold, present. Herman Hewitt. Not present. Trevor Holland.
Yes.
Present. Olympia Katsi.
It's Kazi and it's present.
Kazi, apologies.
Thank you.
Damaris Reyes.
Present.
Present. Jackie Wong. Not present. Dominic Berg. Not present. And Steve Herrick.
Yes, present.
Present. Great. Paul, I think we have a quorum. Is that right?
You have quorum. And before Jake continues on and before the presentation gets started, all members of the community, if you could please sign into the chat box with your attendance and with your name and your affiliation for our attendance purposes only. Please do so. And Jake, I'll hand it back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul. So the only thing we have on our agenda today is we have a presentation from DDC about 70 Mulberry. Is Norberto on this yet?
Yes. Hi, Jake. Norberto is here. That's me.
Fantastic. Welcome. Well, if you want to kick it off, is there anything for me? Are you planning to share your screen? Are you a co-host?
Yes, we have some members of our DDC project management team, as well as our design consultant, and our design consultant will be sharing screen. Let me just see. Okay, there you are.
Yes. Hi, Jack. This is Yo Yu Chen of Grimshaw Architects. I cannot share my screen because it was disabled. Is that possible for you to grant grant me the right so I can share the screen? At the moment, I cannot share the screen.
Imaginably, that's possible. Paul, are you capable of doing that? Am I?
Ms. Chen, you should do it. You should have access now.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. I'm assuming everyone can see the screen as I do. My name again is Norberto Acevedo. I'm the director of DDC's Office of Community Outreach and Notification. Tonight, we're here to present the kind of, we've been here before, meeting with certain members of the community to talk about 70 Mulberry, but now we have kind of moved on to another phase, and we're all very excited. We have members, as I said, of our DDC project management team and our design consultant, Grimshaw, who will go through the rest of the slideshow. And if there are any questions after, we're here to answer those. So I'm going to hand this over to a member of our DDC team. Is it Midori? Are you taking over here? If I see Midori on here. And if not, perhaps Juan, if you're here, or Anne-Marie, in the absence of Midori.
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Juan Cuervo.
Thank you, Juan.
Sure, thank you, Norberto. I am the program director for the Course DCAS program unit. As Norberto indicated, we are the program within DDC in charge of running this job from beginning to end. We're going to be coordinating design activities, construction activities, and of course, closeout activities. Most likely also we're gonna get involved in the end of the project at the end when we get the tenants of the building back into the facility.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, great.
Yes.
I think we have Midori
Okay.
on. Thank you, Midori.
Midori,
Sorry
take
about
it over.
that. I,
No problem.
yeah, I had issues with connecting to the sound. Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Midori Tanabe. I am the co-project manager for the 70 Mulberry Street reconstruction project with the DCAS unit and in public buildings, DDC. And my counterpart is Jerome Alice. So we're here to provide a summary to the 70 Mulberry Street reconstruction project. 70 Mulberry Street is a multi-tenant 5-story building which sustained major damage due to a fire in 2020. And the building was partially demoed as a safety measure. The building is a contributing property to the Chinatown and Little Italy National Register Historic District, and although not officially designated, has served as a visual and cultural landmark for the neighborhood throughout its history. With its destruction, the community lost a facility with important programmatic functions, as well as primary historical material from the Museum of Chinese in America. So this is our project scope, as you see here. So we will aim to preserve and restore portions of the building's historic facade, and we will include over 51,000 square feet of space to returning tenants, as well as an additional 16,500 square feet of community spaces and offices. And we'll also provide building enhancements to ensure greater accessibility. Next slide, please. What you see here is our projected timeline. This is for the duration of our scope of work, and it is an aggressive timeline based on the information that we have gathered on this project, but the unique risks and the typical procedures for a project of this magnitude calls for it. So prior to design, upon receiving this project from DCAS in February of 2021, DDC selected Grimshaw Architects as our design consultant based on strict guidelines such as their qualifications and prior experience. And we're currently in the design phase, and the duration for this will be 19 months. Next, we would have construction procurement, which would last 8 months, and finally construction, which will last 41 months. And this will give us a projected substantial completion date of Q4 of 2027. Next slide, please. And this is a team of a list of our project team. We, DDC, are the managing agency, and our sponsor agency is DCAS. And our primary consultant for design is Grimshaw Architects. And I will now be handing over the presentation to Grimshaw. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Yo-Yu Chen of Grimshaw Architect. It is my honor to be the project architect for the 70 Mulberry. And tonight, we have some of our Grimshaw colleagues also join the call, and we are very excited to meet with the community. As this page shows, we have a full team of designers, engineers, and specialists to deliver this complex building and bring it back to its glory. Grimshaw is a place of ideas and innovation driven by a desire to connect people to each other and the world around us. I'd like to share some of the Grimshaw similar projects here in New York and around the country. The one you see on the left-hand side is the Duke University Richard Broadhead Center for Campus Life. The design preserves the integrity of the 1920s design, which is renovated to its original state, fully modernized. The lofty day-lit hall includes a variety of dining venues that allows faculty, students, staff, and alumni to meet for planned or impromptu interactions. The project in the middle is the Queen's Museum. It is a substantial renovation of the existing Queens Museum, the only remaining structure from New York City's 1939 World's Fair site. Given the institution a sense of openness and invites public interaction while also doubling its size, giving 6 new galleries of various sizes for permanent and temporary exhibitions, as well as architect studios and space for education and public events. And the way we design the museum is very easy to navigate and allows for greater display of the museum's collections. Queens Museum of Art is loved and fully integrated with the Queens community. And the other project on the right-hand side is a Google Fiber project. It's a storefront project. It's very unique. The approach is to have the minimum intervention to the existing structure and create this kind of special flexible space for the commercial space. And across a broad portfolio of work in projects, large and small, we deliver compelling design that is uplifting and inspiring. And we have met with, we want to learn more, analyze for the pre-fire building layout. We met with 5 tenants individually in the past few weeks, and then to learn how the program functions and how the tenants use this space. And we know that after fire, there's a series of community engagements. And for Grimshaw, this project has served a real resource for the community. And we value the historic character charms of the 70 Mulberry. And we want to share one more our presence in New York. It's in downtown Manhattan in Financial District. It's a Fulton Street Transit Center. This is the image at the bottom left-hand side. It is a modern, it's a contemporary subway station, and at the same time preserve the historic Corbin building, as you see in the picture. And then some of you know regarding the community engagement, some of you might already met with 3x3. 3x3 during your previous community engagement section. And then for the design team, we are going to continue their involvement throughout the design phase to help us to connect with the community. And for the existing condition, the design team has a full team of specialist engineers to evaluate the existing condition. And as Midori mentioned earlier, the building was substantially damaged during the fire back in 2020s. So the team, we investigate that, and we investigate the facade stability, the structure stability, and then evaluate the feasibility of the preservation in many ways of the facade superstructure, and we also look into some of the remaining interior elements. And we'd like to share with you an initial preliminary maxing analysis for the new building. This is showing the what you would like potentially as of right based on the zoning requirements. And we like to let you know this is very preliminary. It's in the early design stage. Just give you a high level like what it could be in the future. And then, as you know, as mentioned earlier, there will be additional 16 500 square feet space added to the new structure. So for the future massing of the project, it will be likely to have to be like 2 floors higher than the previous 5-story building. And regarding the area distributions, it is the city want to return the existing 5 tenants with the square footage they have. So for all the 5 tenants, they will get similar size of the program area as they have previously. And in addition to that, there will be additional 16,500 square feet added to the new program. And then the program will be, we are still doing the feasibility of defining the new program. It could be a multi-purpose room and the additional program to be shared among the community and the existing tenant. And we like to share with you what we are doing for the next step. We understand this is a very complex site. Although we are in the early design stage, we already taken the construction consideration during our design phase, and then we are coordinate with the adjacent properties, doing some preliminary coordination at the moment. And for us, we have finalized the building program with tenants' input and try to fine tuning and then to analyze what's this new program could be and what's best to benefit, to contribute to the tenant and also the community. And regarding the community engagement, there will be future community engagement section on design by the end of the year. And that is our presentation. And please let us know if you have any questions or there's any topic you'd like to discuss.
So we could open it up to questions. We can go back to some of the other slides if needed, if we want to revisit some. So I leave it to the Land Use Committee.
Thank you. This is Anisha. Sorry to be late to the meeting. I'll open it up for questions from committee members first, and then we'll open up to questions from the public or anybody else who's attending. So are there any committee members that have questions about the presentation for DDC or any of the other stakeholders? Olympia, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Basically, I just wanted a clarification. In the previous presentations about this project, the concerns of the locals, that we had heard were mainly two. One is the preservation report, and what did you discover? Are you able to preserve any of the internal structure, or is this now just the facade? So if you can answer first this, and then I have one more.
Okay, I think we could have Grimshaw or DDC personnel answer that. Whoever could jump in next.
Yeah, I can take that, Yo-Yu, if you like. My name is Mark Husser with Grimshaw and with Yo-Yu. And that is exactly the evaluation that's going on now. The intention is to preserve at a minimum the facade. And there is a lot of damage that's been done to the building, particularly on the interior structure. And so that is part of this first stage of work, which is to do a feasibility analysis and understand the circumstances of what can be preserved in terms of the primary structure or not. So that is something we'll be coming back to you with, yeah.
And to clarify, the damage is the original damage of the fire, because the concern back then was that there was a lot of demo going on. And so some people had felt at the time that maybe they had demolished more than needed to be demolished. Are you now saying that that's what happened, or is it the fire damage?
Well, I wasn't around then, but my understanding was that it was the fire damage and then the resulting level of different demolition that had to be done to stabilize the existing building. As you know, many of the internal floors were compromised. So my understanding, it was from the primary fire, and then the amount that was minimally necessary to stabilize the building.
Thank you. And the second question, the main concern back then was there is a local community of stakeholders, like a steering committee that DDC is supposed to be meeting. And I know that I owe you and said that there are meetings taking place. So do you have like regular meetings with that committee?
Well, those are some of the things that are being planned now. So we've had preliminary meetings with the individual tenants that will be coming back. And we plan on having another meeting for the engagement and input on some of the design once we get to that point. So that's why we say here, sometime before the end of this year, as design progresses, we'll be able to come back to the community at large and get some input on that design.
I mean, just to be clear, the concern was that the committee was supposed to be meeting like throughout, right? They're not supposed just to be shown some, a fait accompli. Like they need to be, participating since the beginning. And one thing also is you mentioned in the presentation that you just added 2 floors. Are you maxing out the zoning? Because that was another conversation that was taking place at the time. With these 2 new floors that you added, is this what is happening?
Can
So
Grimshaw
would you like
take
me to
that?
take that? Sure.
Yeah.
So the intent is to replace the amount of square footage that was previously in the building and add approximately 16,500 square feet of additional program for broader community use, which equates to essentially making a building that is 2 stories taller than the building that was there previously. Does that answer?
Were
Right,
you
but
able to, were you
Sorry.
able to max out?
No, that's not maxing out. Yo, maybe you have the numbers, but that's quite a ways from maxing out the zoning. It's a lot less.
Yeah,
It's a lot less than.
right. It's due to, I think, the area we have is got the DDC and DCAS. They've done a series of the feasibility report to identify, because our ambition aligned with the budget, and then they created it's in the front end report, recommend us to add additional 16,500 square foot to the building. So we are not messing out the zoning as of right, but it's a balance of the budget and the program areas. So the answer is no, we are not messing out, but there will be additional 16,500 square feet provided for the existing tenant and then the community.
Thank you. I didn't care whether you were maxing it or not. I just knew that this was a major concern at the time of the local stakeholders. So I wanted to make sure that you are discussing that with them.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Olympia. Are there any other questions from committee members? Let me see. Okay, seeing none at this time, I'll go ahead and open it up to members of the public. We'll come back to the committee. Richard, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. My question has to do really with the new construction and the facades of the building. As you know, the building itself is very historic. It's CBJ Snyder's first public school building in New York, when he was really the most prolific school architect of the turn of the 20th century. And actually, it's a shame, because I remember from some of the earlier meetings that the the original design, the original facade that was left after the fire was taken down probably much further than it needed to go for purely structural reasons. So my question is that does Grimshaw plan to design a new addition or a new structure on top of what's remaining with some kind of a architectural or aesthetic dialogue with the existing structure, or to do something that's completely new? I'm thinking particularly of the Fulton Street subway station, where the original building looks beautifully designed. And the original building looks beautifully restored, and the new building looks nicely designed in and of itself, but really didn't seem to have any kind of architectural relationship with the original building. And so I'm wondering if that's the approach that's being taken now, or if there's going to be more of a dialogue planned and a way to try to bring the aesthetics back closer to the original building.
Norberto, would you like me to take that?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark.
Sure. That's a great question, and I think it's probably a little bit early in the process to have a definitive response to that. I mean, we always try and create, particularly when we work in an existing context with an existing, particularly historically notable building, to do something that complements it and sometimes relates to it in terms of architectural detail. But we're simply not at that stage of the design yet to sort of know what the solution is going to be. But as we said, we'll be coming back to the community on a periodic basis through the design phase and be presenting various options that we're exploring.
Well, I'm with the Lower East Side Preservation Initiative, and our concern isn't so much that the detailing, matches the original detailing. If the new design really has a very serious dialogue with the original one aesthetically.
Right, understood.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. I'll go ahead to Susan. Susan, are you still there?
Is it me, Susan Lee?
Yes, Susan Lee.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. So I have a question. Are they assessing the plan with the borough-based plan, the borough-based jail plan that is going on 2 blocks away? Because as you know, they're starting with some interior demolition. And so how would this impact surrounding buildings as all this heavy construction's going on within a 2-block vicinity of each other?
Right, that's a good question. So yes, DDC is managing 2 major projects within only a couple blocks of each other. Yes, there will be coordination. It is at a very early stage, so that's a good thing. So we can actually try to have a plan for this. So the talks are happening now about how to coordinate the work. That's the simple answer to the question, yes.
May I ask a follow-up?
Of course.
So will there be kind of community outreach? Because as you know, Chinatown there's a lot of seniors living in the community, and I want to make sure that our community has appropriate outreach in terms of language access. A lot of the seniors do not speak English, and I want to make sure that the community is well aware of what's going on. Having 2 constructions simultaneously happening within 2 blocks of each other is something that I think is of great concern to the community.
Yes, thank you for your question. We also agree, and that is something we are working on. And the outreach component as it stands now is going to be kind of a mixture of the folks that are on this call, but also as we get closer towards the construction phase, we will also have a community liaison assigned to this project that will have the language skills necessary to communicate in the community.
Okay, thank you so much, Norberto.
Thank you.
I'll go next to Amy Chin.
Hi, great. It's great to see a timeline on this project finally. So thanks to everyone who's worked so hard to get us to this point. And thank you, Susan, for those questions, because I had the same concerns about the structural integrity, especially of these very old buildings that are surrounding or actually in between 2 major construction sites. So I hope that the greatest care will be taken with that. I had a question about the height. I know earlier it was stated that we are not maxing out the zoning on this particular site. And I was wondering why that would be, because in my mind, it would be really important. And this was expressed in the community engagement that was done by 3x3, that we get as much space as possible for the community. So I would like to understand, I understand there are budget issues, why we're not creating even more space on this site if it's allowable under current zoning.
I think, yeah, the simple answer is it is a budget constraint. We have a budget to work with, and this is what it gives us. I don't have a better answer for you.
Is there any possibility that that could change? I know originally there wasn't very much money committed to this, and then $178 million, I believe, was now allocated. If we could get more money for it, is it too late for us to maximize it and get even more very much needed space for our community?
I think, I don't know that that's actually a question for DDC, so I don't want to sound like I'm avoiding the question. I just don't know that the folks that need to be on the call to potentially address that question are here. But all I can say is that the $170+ million that we have as a budget is what we're designing to.
Right. And how much is more space is allowable that on the site that won't?
Oh,
Above what you're planning right now?
theoretically speaking, I'm not so sure. Grimshaw, will we have an answer to that? I don't know if we can answer that on this call, but if we can.
Yeah, I don't know that we've actually calculated the total amount. What's the limiting factor is actually the sky exposure plane in the zoning. So while there would be additional floors allowed above what's envisioned, as the building gets taller, it has to step back further and further from the street to ultimately you have no space left. But we actually haven't done that calculation because we're working with the areas in the budget that were given to us.
If we can have a ballpark for that in the future, that would be helpful. And I understand about the sky plane and the setback, but you know, the community is just in such dire need of additional community space that I think it's worth considering. Thank you.
Sure, understood. Yeah, we can do that calculation.
I'll go now to Fanny. And then Steve, you'll be after.
Hi, so I guess I have a comment about the facade. Agreeing with Richard, it would be great to see something that is kind of close to what we had before. And the fact that is, I think the community would like to see the facade preserved. And would it be possible for you to do a drawing or a markup or a rendering of the building with the facade preserved at all? I mean, I know you guys are waiting for the report to come back, but I just think that by giving us this preliminary design, it's almost as if you're telling us that the facade is not going to be able to preserve. But it would be great if we could see a rendering with the facade preserved, if that's possible.
I'm not exactly sure that is possible at this point. This is a massive building, and we're going through this process. Obviously, it needs to go through that process to get to the next stage. And while all of us would like to see this move faster, this is the pace that it takes. So I think perhaps that's something we could consider later, but I would have to defer to our DDC colleagues and Grimshaw to see if that's even possible at this point.
Yeah, because I mean, we would really like to see that preserved. And I've thought, like, from the last meeting, I thought that it was going to be able to preserve. I thought that, this whole time you guys were already did that report and all that, but I guess you guys didn't. And then to see this, design that has nothing to do with the prior building at all. I mean, it's very disappointing, that's all.
Well, if I could, Roberto, I'll address it. So let me just clarify. The intention is to preserve the facade, and I think that's clear. So that's no change. I think probably the difference between what was previously studied is was at very high level. Now we're in the realm of very highly technical evaluation for all the structural systems, the masonry, and with all the experts to truly work out how best to do that. So the intention is there to preserve the facade. So I don't think there's any going back on that. And the images that were shown in Yo-Yo's presentation are simply massing images of the kind of a volumetric massing of the sort of size of the building on the site. That is not a design or a rendering. It's just simply to show the amount of area that would be fitting on the site under the current program. But we will certainly be coming back as we progress through the design phase to present to you images and renderings of the concept and the design as we move forward. As Norberto said, we're just simply not there yet because we're still working out the contents of the building program.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mark, could we go back to the timeline? Could you just tell us when we might expect like the process from this massing diagram and the engagement to getting to more sort of visual renderings of what this could look like?
Yeah, if you can go back to the.
It also speaks to that
schedule.
in the last slide there. We're hoping to come back to the community with a design engagement this year. So before the end of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, at a minimum, I would say there will be a process, there'll be updates to the community board. And we will be, as I said, updating that. So the way that the process works, we're in a stage right now that we term pre-schematic design, which is basically where we're working to define the contents of the building in terms of area. And we have several more weeks of that remaining. And then we'll start to actually what we call schematic design. And to actually start looking at the various options. And we think it's important to leave no stone unturned, so to speak, in terms of looking at the various options for configuring the building program. And then that leads into actual concept designs for how the building will look. And it's at that point that we can start to share renderings of ideas of how the architecture will manifest itself.
Thank you. That's helpful to clarify the process. I'll throw it over to Steve now for your question.
Yeah, the current building has a certificate of occupancy as a school, as I understand. So I'm wondering what the anticipated certificate of occupancy will be when this is completed, given that the different nonprofits, I guess, are not all classified as educational, or if there are additional tenants that come in. I'm just wondering if you anticipate any issues with delays in getting a new certificate of occupancy, because in our own office building, we've been working for years to get a new C of O. And, we are all in occupancy already in our building. It's a lot of nonprofits. And this is a building where you're going to have to, people can't move in until there's a new C of O. So I'm wondering if you anticipate any issues.
Well, I think the C of O process typically happens, or always happens, towards the end of the construction process. So it's really early to speculate as to how that process will proceed. I think as we approach the end of the construction phase, we would have a better idea of where we are and, how the certificate of occupancy will be worked out. I don't know that we can even comment on that right now.
Steve, any other questions?
No, it's just something I'm curious about. Depending on the type of use, it affects the number of people that can occupy the unit, because we're dealing with that in our own building. So for some of the organizations, it's a little bit limiting. They have like 1,200 or 1,600 square feet. And we're finding because of, they're using it for, like a exhibit space or for an office space. And it's all based on the amount of people per floor. So depending on who's across the hall from you, it actually affects how many people you could have in your space. So it's just a little bit challenging, we're finding.
Got it. So more to chew on as this process evolves. Olympia, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. So, I mean, I'm wondering a couple of things, is whether we are going to send a letter or write some comments today at the committee about the project, because, this is, I think, the third or fourth presentation we're getting. And I think Steve raised an important point that we should have an answer, but also one of the members of the public, I don't know if it was Fanny or the person who spoke before her, raised the issue of that the community actually needs more space, they need more services, and maybe they would be willing to talk with local elected officials who could, give additional discretionary funding. So I'm assuming that since they are now on schematic design, I think Acevedo said that they were not able to answer as DDC, but I think as DDC you can answer where the community is successful in getting more funds. I mean, of course, if you're in construction, you cannot change anything, but in terms of like schematic, final, like what is really in this timeline that we're looking right now, the end point in which the community, will know if they still have space to fundraise and get a bigger space for them.
Well, again, I think you are on the right track. This is certainly something you may want to speak, not just you, but the community at large may want to speak to their council member and elected officials about. DDC is tasked with managing this process, and the consultants and everyone that we hire to go through this process, we all have directives, right? So our directive now is to carry on with the scope of work and the budget we're using now. I don't know how to, I would be speculating to answer what is the, drop dead date where the community cannot go back. We cannot go back anymore and make any other changes. That would be a difficult question too. So I wouldn't answer that.
Thank you. Anissa, maybe we can consider whether we want to write something, even if it ends up being a letter,
Yeah, so on that point, we had not planned for any type of letter or resolution to come out of this meeting. This was really an informational presentation since we had not heard this update in a while. If the committee would like to consider some sort of letter or more information gathering for a resolution next month, so that we can post it and make sure we hear from as many people as possible and gather the correct information. I think that's a possibility on the table, but I don't think we'll be doing that tonight.
Thank you. Is any of the people who is here today participating in the official local stakeholder committee?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that question.
So my impression was that there were people appointed as to represent the local stakeholders, and those were some of the people who you met in the past with, and I was wondering if anyone is present here today.
It doesn't seem like anybody has indicated their affiliation with that, Olympia. So that would be, for example.
So, yeah, I think then we should just schedule it for next month, because in case that committee is not meeting and this is the only opportunity people have to make any comments, I think we should keep it open for them.
Okay, so we'll consider it for the agenda next month. But I wanted to see if anybody else had any final questions on this presentation. in terms of next steps, at least from the community board perspective, in relation to the community engagement, if we could stay informed as to when the engagement sessions happen for design, whether it's through the community board or just in general for the public, so we can make sure that people are aware of it, that would be really great. And we'll also invite DDC and others back to get periodic updates to this committee.
Absolutely. We can do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And the committee will move, I don't think we have any other agenda items for tonight. So the committee will move to the closing roll call. Jake, do you want to go through that?
Anisha, this
Yes.
is Olympia. So one thing, when we started, Jake didn't discuss the minutes.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
I mean,
okay.
just approve it or whatever.
So I will take a step back. Does anybody have any comments to the minutes from July? Okay, no comments. So those are now approved. We'll move into the final roll call.
Thank you, Olympia, and apologies. Final roll call, Anisha,
Yes.
Jake Gold, yes. Herman Hewitt, I think was absent. Trevor Holland,
Yes.
Olympia Kazi,
Present.
Damaris Reyes,
Present.
Jackie Wong, I think was absent. Dominic Berg, I think was absent, and Steve Herrick.
Present.
And with that, our September meeting ends. I will see you all in October. Thank you again for participating tonight. We super appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.